Scott, this book is amazing. I read this book. I couldn't put it down. I read it in one day because your memoirs and the story of your life, it's so compelling. And the sheer honesty of the book is just, it's incredibly moving. Tell me why you decided to write the book now and you thought it was time to put this down to paper.
I don't think people really have an idea of who I really am as a person. You know, there's the person that performs on stage, and there's the person that writes records. But a lot of the stuff in this book, anybody could have experienced. Normally, I think people that are of the rock format choose co-writers tend to write mostly about rock.
Like music books and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. And I chose David Ritz because his background is in jazz, R&B, soul music, and I think that, for one thing, that's where rock and roll came from, and I thought that he would have more of an unbiased perspective on
You and your life, right?
my musical side of my life. Yeah.
I mean, he's amazing. Not only has he written a lot of books, but he actually co-wrote Sexual Healing with Marvin Gaye, which is such a cool thing.
Yes, he did.
I thought that was amazing. Now, Scott, once again, I mean, the narrative in here, even though you had him as a co-writer, when you read the book, you really feel like it's you talking directly to the reader. That's what I got out of it. And I mean, the things that are in this book are very, very honest, as you said. You talk about losses in your life, like that young boy Craig, who your regular dad Kent.
My stepbrother.
Yeah, his death at a very young age, which is a really hard thing for you to deal with, and of course, your brother Michael a few years back, which I know was a very difficult thing for you, and your relationship between your stepdad Dave and your dad Kent. So I mean, it really deals with all those personal things. I love the fact that chronologically it goes from your childhood, you was a young boy, going through school, moving to California, and then starting in bands, finding that love that you have for music and for rock and roll. And then going, of course, it's fascinating to see how STP came together. The fact that, you were playing with Corey, these other guys, and then you saw Robert, he came up and jammed you guys at one time, and you were like, man, this guy's unbelievable. And then eventually reconnected with Robert, and Eric, of course, was there, and then eventually Dean coming into the band. It's a really, for fans of your music, it's really a great story. It's very interesting stuff.
My first band, I formed when I was 16, and that was sort of the post-punk period, and
it's like the new romantic kind of era of things.
Yeah, it was like, we were into Echo and the Bunnymen and The Cure, and Lord's of the New Church and all that kind of stuff. And the first two Duran Duran albums, which I think are fantastic.
They are. The first two are the best.
We used to rehearse in my parents' garage and play at backyard parties, and then we started playing at clubs, and we pretty much figured out that Corey and I managed the band, and we actually got a gig in Newport Beach, where we played every Tuesday and Wednesday night, and we got $200 a show, which at that time was, enough money for, like beer on the weekends, and
to buy your favorite records that were coming out.
Yeah, it's just like, I was also in the choir, the Magical Ensemble. We did over 100 concerts a year in school. I think that's where I got my ability to understand harmony, layering vocal harmonies.
You talk about kind of singing along with David Bowie and John Lennon, and that kind of way of training your voice like that when you were a kid too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, listening to the Beatles and the Beach Boys, and I even tried to take a couple years of music theory, and was not so good at it. I was never very good at math.
I love the misconception too that a lot of people will find out from reading this book that you were a San Diego band, because actually the band started more in the LA County area, and it was because Dean was actually helping you guys get gigs before he was even in there. He was booking your gigs down in San Diego.
Yeah, and then once Robert decided he would join the band. Robert had a studio. He had a 8-track, quarter-inch, tape machine, and we just honed our writing chops. And then the next step was, to get a drummer. So we got it after a few tryouts. We met Eric, and on actually the first time we ever rehearsed with Eric, Corey plugged his guitar into the wall and went to grab his guitar and adjust the mic and threw him across the room. It was
wow.
The place wasn't grounded very well at all.
That's amazing. Now, in the book too, I know for your fans, I love the fact that you talk about the origins of the lyrics of a lot of the songs. You talk about Vaseline, but Interstate Love Song. You're very frank in the book, which is also about your relationships, your marriages to Janina. Is that how it's pronounced?
Janina,
and Mary, of course, and the relationships and what you were going through, and and some of the infidelities and the other things that happen in relationships, the trust issues. But you're very open about it, and I find that
Janina
amazing.
was the only girl that there ever were any infidelities, and I don't know why that was. Some years later, once I kicked dope, I was doing my steps, and it came around to that point where I had to make amends, and I called her on the phone and said to her, I need to speak to you about something. All those times that I lied to you about being with other girls, not being with other girls, I had cheated on you, and we both cried, and Mary was actually in the room with me while I was making the phone call, and she forgave me. I'm very happy for Janina. I mean, she's remarried to a wonderful guy that she knew since childhood.
Yeah.
So, but as far as Mary goes, I was always steadfast and true with Mary.
You say in the book that was the first time you knew you were actually really in love when you married. You figured out what love was.
Except for my first high school love,
Yeah.
I mean, which is like, you don't know whether you're coming or going.
There was the one crazy girl too, the one you were involved with, that lit your car on fire. She burned your car.
Yeah.
She burned your car. And I love what you said. You said, "Why'd you burn my car?" And she says in the book to you, she says, "You're lucky I didn't burn you with the car."
Yeah.
And that was just the insanity of the relationships. But I love it because it's all in there, I really, I want to thank you for the book because, I've known you for so many years. I've known you since the first time. We've done so much stuff over the years. And this book shows an incredible side of you. It shows all the different things. You really feel like you get to know Scott when you read the book. So I really want to ask everyone to definitely purchase this book and read it, because if you're a fan, you'll be blown away by this thing. I
There are some things in there that are very personal and where I wasn't sure if I wanted to put down. But you know, I think that once you start a project, any endeavor, you know, you kind of have to just like go for
be
it.
honest and really put it all out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's an interesting thing that was said to me a long time ago. One person said, if you ever write a book, tell the truth. Write a book and say what really happened. Say what really went on in your life. Don't do it halfway, because then it's not an honest book. And this is unbelievably honest. But Scott, listen, it's great to have you up here. Thanks so much for coming to say hello to everybody.
Thank you.
And we're going to give a super excited. Scott Weiland, everybody. Let's hear it for him.
That's great.